At university, for 3 years straight, I woke up at 4:45 a.m. In that entire 3 years, there were probably less than 10 days where I actually had a lie-in, because I trained myself to wake up at 4:45 a.m. And the best part is that anyone can teach themselves to wake up early. So when I was younger, I used to hate waking up early. I really didn't like waking up early. Fast forward a few years later to when I was studying for my degree at university, I wanted to wake up early because I realized how much of a positive impact it had on my life. And throughout university, that one thing, just waking up at 4:45 a.m. every morning, was one of the most impactful and overall healthiest things I could have done. And so this is how I did it. I think most people go about it backwards. They want to wake up at 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. or whatever time, so then they set their alarm clock for that time. But then when the alarm clock goes off in the morning, they're still feeling really tired, so they hit the snooze button or just cancel the alarm and continue sleeping. So instead of doing it that way, I kind of reversed it, right? So I set my alarm clock at the time I wanted to go to bed. I would wake up at 4:45 a.m., so I'd want to be in bed by 9 p.m. the night before, so I'd be asleep by just before 10 p.m., so that's a good 7 hours of sleep. And doing it that way, when my alarm went off at 4:45, because I just had 7 hours of sleep, it was actually really easy to wake up. In fact, usually I'd wake up naturally 15 or 20 minutes before my alarm clock went off because my body had rested enough and it knew it was time to wake up. It really was almost a revolutionary discovery. I mean, the benefits on my life just from waking up early really were significant. I talk more in depth about sleeping patterns and waking up early and my experience and lessons I learned at university in the Transforming Your Grades course that I launched last year. The course really has just one goal. I created it to help support you to boost your grade level by at least 2 grade points. So if you're currently studying at a D grade, then the course will help push you towards studying at a B grade by the end of the 30 days. Now, it's not a magic fix, right? You still need to put in the work, but I support you throughout the transformation, and I even offer one-on-one support and counseling, and I've put huge emphasis within the course material on how to study efficiently rather than just studying harder. The idea being that you can actually study fewer hours but achieve higher grades because your studying is more focused and you're using the right memorization techniques and speed learning hacks. So we're currently offering a back to school sale for all of you that are starting your new academic year. You can click on the link in the description below for more information. Consistency is a huge deal here. So my body got used to waking up at 4:45 a.m. every morning, so I'd wake up energized and not tired or lethargic because I woke up at that time every single morning, and I'd be asleep by 10 p.m. every single night, even on weekends. And I knew that even if I missed one day and I went to sleep late at like 1 or 2 or 3 in the morning, it could mess up my sleeping pattern for days or even weeks to come. So I was really kind of disciplined in making sure that I got my 7 to 8 hours of sleep. And I don't know about you, everyone is different, but for me, if I don't get my 7 or 8 hours sleep, then I'll probably be feeling pretty tired the next day. And another point, if you're struggling with your sleeping pattern and let's say you usually wake up most mornings at 11 a.m. or 12 or even early afternoon, and you want to start waking up early, it's best to do it gradually over a period of a week or so. So one morning I'd wake up at 11 a.m., then the next day I'd wake up at 10, then the next morning I'd wake up at 9. And if you try to fix your sleeping pattern in one morning or in one night, and say you normally wake up at 11 a.m., but the next morning you try to wake up at 4 or 5, it's going to be extremely difficult, and it's why a lot of people fail with doing it this way. And if you're still struggling to wake up early and you keep hitting that snooze button, one thing that works really well for me is I set my alarm on loud, and then I put it either downstairs or in the kitchen or in another room or even just at the other side of the room. And that way, when the alarm goes off in the morning, I have to physically get out of bed to turn it off. So it kind of forces me to get up out of bed whether I want to or not. And if I need to dramatically change my sleeping pattern, I will spread it out over a couple of weeks. And this is often the case when I travel and I'm in a completely different time zone. So I mentioned at the beginning of the video that I probably had a lie-in for a maximum of maybe 10 days in that 3 years. And most of those times were when I was traveling to a different time zone and I was just kind of jet lagged. You see, it really is easy to wake up extremely early, even 3 or 4 a.m. if you really want to, providing that two things happen. Firstly, you go to sleep and you wake up at the same time every single day, and that means no cheat days, so 7 days a week, even on weekends. That way your body will get used to it, and so naturally you will wake up after having 7 or 8 hours of sleep. And the second thing is that you need to be disciplined with your sleep schedule. So that means if you need to be in bed by 10 p.m. at night time, then you make sure that you're in bed by 10 p.m. I think we've all been in that situation where the time we sleep starts creeping later and later and later, and then you start waking up later and later and later, and before you know it, it's afternoon before you naturally wake up. And it will take you 2 or 3 weeks of being really disciplined and making sure that you go to sleep on time. But after a few weeks, your body will get used to it and you'll form a habit. And once that habit is formed, it will be a lot easier. It will almost become automatic, so you don't even need to think about it anymore. Another thing that was incredibly important was that I had a nighttime routine. So I noticed that there are two things that if I do them just before I sleep, I won't be able to sleep for hours and I'll still be lying in bed wide awake at 3 or 4 in the morning. The first one is exercise, particularly cardiovascular exercise such as running. If I go for a run 1 hour before I sleep, there's no way I'm going to fall asleep. Maybe it's because of the chemicals and hormones like adrenaline that are released during the run. I don't know, but going for a run before I sleep is a bad idea. The second thing is watching YouTube. I've noticed that if I watch YouTube in bed before I sleep, it kind of stimulates my brain to the point where there are so many ideas and thoughts rushing around my mind that I just can't relax and go to sleep. I found a good substitute for watching YouTube before bed is actually reading or even just watching Netflix. Watching a film or documentary is far more kind of relaxing and not that interesting compared with watching YouTube videos, at least for me. For you, closing your eyes and listening to a podcast, some light meditation, or even filling in a nightly journal might be a better option for you. And it's worth mentioning, waking up early is not for everyone, right? So some people are early birds, some are night owls. I have friends that no matter how much they try, they're just not productive in the morning. An article by medical physician Ian Crows from Stanford University in 2016 stated whether you can concentrate better earlier in the morning or whether you can concentrate better at nighttime up until about 2 or 3 a.m. is largely based up to biological and genetic factors. And I'd say I'm definitely more of an early bird than a night owl, so waking up at 4:45 a.m. is incredibly beneficial for me. I realized I was far more productive because most other people were sleeping, so I could get more done without being distracted. I could drive to university earlier than everyone else, therefore beating the morning rush hour, which would add an extra 20-25 minutes to my commute. I just felt happier and more kind of motivated and healthier. And actually there was a study in 2008 at the University of North Texas that found that students that woke up earlier, or students that classed themselves as morning people, had an average GPA that was a full 1 point higher than students that classed themselves as night owls. So the early birds received on average a 3.5 GPA, whereas the night owls achieved a 2.5 GPA. And I actually talk more about waking up early and having a strong morning routine in a video I made recently called How I Manage My Time, Tips for Lazy People. And also, if you're a student, one of my newest videos, Train Yourself to Learn Like Einstein, is one of my fastest growing videos on the channel. It basically goes through a few kind of memory hacks that Einstein himself used that allowed him to be a speed learner. You can click on the card on the screen to watch that. And once again, if you really want to make that commitment and level up your grades, the Transform Your Grades course is what you're looking for. Link in the description below.